Question 1. When evaluating a student's artwork submitted for an exhibition that contains potentially sensitive imagery, and a fellow student expresses discomfort and concern about its display, what is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action for the faculty advisor? Option A. Publicly address the artwork's content in a general assembly, explaining the school's policy on acceptable artistic expression without singling out the student. Option B. Allow the artwork to remain on display without intervention, prioritizing the student's artistic freedom above all other considerations. Option C. Initiate a private conversation with the student artist to understand their intent and discuss the potential impact of the artwork on the school community, exploring alternative presentation methods or contextualization. Option D. Immediately remove the artwork from the exhibition to avoid any potential conflict or offense to other students. The correct answer is C. Initiate a private conversation with the student artist to understand their intent and discuss the potential impact of the artwork on the school community, exploring alternative presentation methods or contextualization. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the student's creative expression with the school's responsibility to maintain a respectful and inclusive learning environment. The student's artwork, while intended as a personal exploration, has the potential to cause distress or offense to others within the school community. Navigating this requires careful judgment to uphold both artistic freedom and the well-being of all students and staff. The correct approach involves engaging in a dialogue with the student to understand their intent and to explain the potential impact of their work. This approach prioritizes open communication and education, aiming to resolve the issue collaboratively. It aligns with the ethical principles of respect for individual expression, while also acknowledging the school's duty of care to its community. By seeking to understand the student's perspective and guiding them towards a more considerate presentation, the school fosters a learning environment where artistic exploration can coexist with community values. This is consistent with the general ethical guidelines for educational institutions that encourage dialogue and understanding in resolving conflicts. An incorrect approach would be to immediately remove the artwork without any discussion. This fails to respect the student's creative process and can be perceived as censorship, potentially alienating the student and hindering their artistic development. It bypasses the opportunity for education and dialogue, which are crucial components of a supportive learning environment. Another incorrect approach would be to allow the artwork to remain without any intervention, despite clear indications of potential harm or offense. This neglects the school's responsibility to ensure a safe and respectful environment for all members of the community. It prioritizes unmitigated artistic freedom over the well-being of others, which is an unbalanced and potentially harmful ethical stance. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, assess the potential impact of the artwork. Second, engage in open and respectful communication with the student to understand their intent and explain concerns. Third, explore alternative solutions that respect both artistic expression and community standards. And finally, document the process and resolution. This framework ensures that decisions are made thoughtfully, ethically, and with consideration for all stakeholders. Question 2. The evaluation methodology shows a need to assess potential risks to the fairness and validity of the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design entrance exam. Which of the following approaches best addresses this requirement? Option A. Delegating the entire risk assessment to external consultants without internal oversight or input. Option B. Prioritizing the speed of candidate selection by focusing only on the number of applications received. Option C. Implementing a risk assessment that only considers the most obvious and immediate threats to the exam process. Option D. A comprehensive review of assessment criteria for potential biases, evaluator training on objective scoring, and a process for monitoring application diversity. Correct answer is D. A comprehensive review of assessment criteria for potential biases, evaluator training on objective scoring, and a process for monitoring application diversity. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design entrance exam, like any educational institution's admissions process, must adhere to principles of fairness, transparency, and non-discrimination. The risk assessment approach requires careful consideration of potential biases and the integrity of the evaluation process. The challenge lies in ensuring that the assessment accurately reflects a candidate's artistic potential and aptitude, without being unduly influenced by factors irrelevant to their suitability for the program. The correct approach involves a systematic identification and mitigation of risks that could compromise the fairness and validity of the entrance exam. This means proactively considering how subjective elements might be assessed, how to ensure equal opportunity for all applicants, and how to prevent any form of bias from influencing the outcome. This aligns with the ethical imperative of providing a level playing field and upholding the reputation of the institution. The regulatory framework for such exams, while not explicitly detailed here as a specific legal document, implicitly demands adherence to principles of meritocracy and equal opportunity, which are foundational to educational admissions. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the volume of applications, without considering the quality or diversity of the applicant pool, fails to address the core risks of a biased or ineffective assessment. This overlooks the ethical obligation to evaluate candidates on their merits. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of processing over thoroughness in risk identification would likely lead to overlooking potential issues, such as inconsistencies in grading or the presence of unconscious bias among evaluators. This neglects the professional responsibility to ensure a robust and fair assessment process. A third incorrect approach that dismisses potential risks as minor without proper investigation is also professionally unsound, as even seemingly small risks can have significant consequences for individual applicants and the institution's integrity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a structured risk assessment framework. This typically includes identifying potential risks, analyzing their likelihood and impact, evaluating existing controls, and developing mitigation strategies. For an entrance exam, this would involve scrutinizing the assessment criteria, the training of evaluators, the fairness of the application process, and the mechanisms for handling appeals or complaints. The goal is to create an evaluation methodology that is both effective in identifying suitable candidates and ethically sound in its execution. Question 3. Analysis of a candidate's approach to generating original artwork for the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design entrance exam, considering the potential for unconscious influence from existing artistic works. Which of the following risk assessment strategies best upholds academic integrity and fosters genuine creative development? Option A. Selecting a well-known artwork and making minor alterations to its composition and color palette to create a new piece that is subtly derivative. Option B. Thoroughly researching diverse artistic movements and individual artists, critically analyzing their techniques and conceptual frameworks, and then synthesizing these influences into a unique personal vision, ensuring the final piece is a distinct expression of the candidate's own ideas and style. Option C. Focusing on a single, prominent artist whose work is admired and attempting to closely replicate their signature style and thematic elements to demonstrate technical proficiency. Option D. Engaging in minimal research to avoid being overly influenced and instead relying primarily on spontaneous, unmediated personal expression, even if it lacks clear artistic context or reference. The correct answer is B. Thoroughly researching diverse artistic movements and individual artists, critically analyzing their techniques and conceptual frameworks, and then synthesizing these influences into a unique personal vision, ensuring the final piece is a distinct expression of the candidate's own ideas and style. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for creative expression with the long-term implications of intellectual property and potential plagiarism, all within the context of an entrance exam designed to assess a candidate's foundational understanding and ethical approach. The pressure to produce original work under timed conditions can lead to shortcuts or unconscious borrowing, making a robust risk assessment crucial. The correct approach involves a proactive and ethical engagement with source material. This means thoroughly researching and understanding existing artistic styles, techniques, and concepts, but critically, it requires a conscious effort to synthesize this knowledge into a unique personal expression rather than direct imitation. This approach aligns with the ethical principles of academic integrity and originality, which are implicitly expected in any higher education entrance examination. It demonstrates a candidate's ability to learn, be inspired, and then innovate, a core skill for artistic development. The regulatory framework for such an exam, while not explicitly codified in a public document for this specific institution, universally implies a commitment to original work and the avoidance of academic dishonesty. An incorrect approach that involves superficial research, and then attempting to replicate a style or concept without deep understanding or personal interpretation, risks unintentional plagiarism. This fails to meet the ethical standard of originality and could be interpreted as a lack of genuine creative engagement. Another incorrect approach, that of relying heavily on a single, easily identifiable source for inspiration without acknowledging its influence or developing it significantly, also falls short. This demonstrates a lack of independent thought and creative synthesis, potentially misrepresenting the candidate's own artistic capabilities. A third incorrect approach, that of avoiding all external inspiration to the point of producing work that is entirely disconnected from established artistic discourse, might be seen as a failure to engage with the broader artistic context, which is a vital part of artistic education and development. It suggests a potential lack of awareness or understanding of art history and contemporary practice. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a multi-stage assessment. First, understanding the core requirements and expectations of the task. Second, conducting thorough research to inform the creative process. Third, critically evaluating the gathered information for inspiration and understanding, not for direct replication. Fourth, consciously developing a personal artistic voice and interpretation. And finally, reflecting on the final work to ensure it represents genuine originality and ethical practice. Question 4. Compliance review shows that an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design has submitted a portfolio piece that is heavily inspired by a lesser-known contemporary artist's work. The applicant has significantly altered the composition, color palette, and medium, but the core concept and thematic elements are clearly derived from the original artist. The applicant has not mentioned the original artist or their work in the submission. What is the most ethically sound and professionally appropriate way for the applicant to address this in their application? Option A. Present the work as entirely original, assuming that the significant alterations made are sufficient to constitute a new creation without the need for attribution. Option B. Remove the piece from the portfolio entirely, as any connection to another artist's work, however inspired, might be perceived negatively by the admissions committee. Option C. Include a brief, vague mention of various artistic influences, without naming the specific contemporary artist or elaborating on the nature of the influence. Option D. Clearly state the inspiration from the contemporary artist, detailing how their work influenced the applicant's concept and thematic development, and then explain the specific creative choices and modifications made to develop a unique artistic expression. The correct answer is D. Clearly state the inspiration from the contemporary artist, detailing how their work influenced the applicant's concept and thematic development, and then explain the specific creative choices and modifications made to develop a unique artistic expression. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design by testing their understanding of ethical considerations in creative practice, specifically concerning intellectual property and attribution. The challenge lies in balancing the desire to create compelling work with the obligation to respect the originality and rights of others. Careful judgment is required to navigate the fine line between inspiration and appropriation, ensuring that the applicant's portfolio submission adheres to academic integrity standards. The correct approach involves acknowledging the source of inspiration and clearly differentiating one's own contribution from the original work. This demonstrates a mature understanding of artistic ethics and academic honesty, which are fundamental to the values of the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design. By explicitly stating the influence and detailing the personal creative input, the applicant upholds principles of intellectual property and avoids misrepresentation. This aligns with the implicit expectation of originality and integrity in all academic submissions. An incorrect approach that involves presenting the work as entirely original without any mention of the source material fails to meet the standards of academic integrity. This constitutes a form of misrepresentation, potentially bordering on plagiarism, and undermines the applicant's credibility. It suggests a lack of understanding or disregard for ethical practices in creative fields. Another incorrect approach, which is to heavily modify the original work to the point of being unrecognizable but still not acknowledging the inspiration, is also problematic. While it attempts to create distance, the lack of attribution still falls short of full transparency and ethical disclosure. It can be seen as an attempt to circumvent the spirit of attribution while still benefiting from the original concept. A further incorrect approach, which is to completely omit any reference to the original work and instead claim it as a personal project, is a direct violation of academic honesty. This is the most egregious failure, as it is a clear attempt to deceive the admissions committee about the applicant's true creative process and originality. The professional reasoning process for such situations involves a clear decision-making framework. 1. Identify the core ethical dilemma. Is there a potential for misrepresentation or infringement of intellectual property? 2. Assess the degree of influence. How significantly has the original work shaped the applicant's creation? 3. Determine the appropriate level of disclosure. What information is necessary to ensure transparency and academic integrity? 4. Prioritize honesty and attribution. Always err on the side of providing clear and accurate information about sources of inspiration and influence. 5. Consider the audience. Understand the expectations of the institution regarding originality and ethical conduct. Question 5. Strategic planning requires the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design to consider its future development. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for French higher education institutions, ensuring both institutional growth and academic integrity? Option A. Implementing a more selective admissions process based on perceived future marketability of applicants, even if it means deviating from established criteria that ensure a diverse student body. Option B. Prioritizing the development of niche, high-profile international collaborations that enhance the school's global reputation, even if it requires reallocating significant resources from core academic departments. Option C. Focusing on a comprehensive review of all academic programs to ensure they meet current industry standards and student learning outcomes, while also exploring sustainable funding models that do not compromise educational quality. Option D. Aggressively pursuing external funding and sponsorships by tailoring program offerings to meet the immediate demands of corporate partners, potentially at the expense of foundational artistic principles. The correct answer is B. Prioritizing the development of niche, high-profile international collaborations that enhance the school's global reputation, even if it requires reallocating significant resources from core academic departments. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, as an educational institution, operates within a specific regulatory environment that prioritizes academic integrity, fair assessment, and student welfare. The challenge lies in balancing the need for strategic planning to enhance the school's reputation and offerings with the absolute necessity of adhering to these foundational principles. Misinterpreting or disregarding these principles can lead to reputational damage, legal challenges, and a loss of trust from students, faculty, and governing bodies. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of the regulatory framework governing higher education in France, specifically as it pertains to art and design schools. This includes adherence to national accreditation standards, ethical guidelines for admissions and curriculum development, and principles of transparency and fairness in all institutional processes. The regulatory framework mandates that strategic decisions must not compromise the quality of education, the fairness of admissions, or the well-being of the student body. Therefore, a strategic plan that prioritizes external recognition over internal academic rigor or equitable access would be fundamentally flawed and ethically unsound. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate external validation, such as prioritizing rankings or perceived prestige without a solid foundation in academic quality and ethical practice, fails to acknowledge the regulatory imperative for sustainable and responsible institutional development. This approach risks superficial achievements that are not supported by genuine educational substance, potentially leading to a breach of accreditation standards or ethical codes. Another incorrect approach that emphasizes cost-cutting measures or resource allocation without considering the impact on educational quality or student support directly contravenes the spirit and letter of regulations designed to ensure a high standard of education and a supportive learning environment. Such a strategy could lead to a decline in the student experience and academic outcomes, jeopardizing the institution's standing. A third incorrect approach that involves circumventing established admissions procedures or academic assessment criteria in pursuit of strategic goals, such as filling quotas or achieving specific diversity metrics without due process, represents a severe ethical and regulatory failure. This undermines the integrity of the admissions process and the academic qualifications of students, leading to potential legal repercussions and a loss of credibility. The professional decision-making process for such situations should involve a multi-stakeholder approach, consulting with academic leadership, faculty, admissions committees, and legal counsel. A robust framework would include 1. Identifying the core strategic objective. 2. Mapping this objective against all relevant French educational regulations and ethical guidelines. 3. Assessing potential impacts on academic quality, student welfare, and institutional integrity. 4. Developing alternative strategies that align with regulatory requirements and ethical principles. 5. Implementing a transparent and accountable process for decision-making and execution. Question 6. Research into the visual archives of historical art movements for inspiration for the entrance exam portfolio. A student discovers a striking composition that perfectly encapsulates their intended theme. The student feels a strong connection to this composition and considers incorporating it directly into their submission, believing it will impress the admissions committee with its visual impact. What is the most ethically sound approach for the student to take? Option A. Subtly adapt the discovered composition, altering key elements and integrating it into a broader personal artistic exploration, while being prepared to discuss the initial inspiration if asked. Option B. Present the discovered composition as their own original idea, confident that the admissions committee will not recognize its source and will be impressed by its sophistication. Option C. Directly reproduce the discovered composition in their portfolio, believing that its inherent quality will speak for itself and demonstrate an understanding of strong visual design. Option D. Discard the discovered composition entirely and create something completely new, fearing any potential for perceived imitation, even if the inspiration is transformed. The correct answer is A. Subtly adapt the discovered composition, altering key elements and integrating it into a broader personal artistic exploration, while being prepared to discuss the initial inspiration if asked. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge for an aspiring art and design student at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, by requiring them to navigate the ethical considerations of academic integrity within the context of a highly competitive entrance examination. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between legitimate inspiration and academic dishonesty, particularly when dealing with visual sources. A student must demonstrate originality and a personal artistic voice, while also acknowledging influences appropriately. The examination's regulatory framework, while not explicitly detailed here, implicitly demands adherence to principles of originality and honest representation of one's work. The correct approach involves a nuanced understanding of artistic influence and a commitment to ethical attribution. This means recognizing when an idea or visual element has been significantly borrowed and taking steps to acknowledge that influence, even if indirectly through stylistic evolution or thematic exploration, rather than direct replication. The regulatory framework of an art and design institution, even without explicit mention, inherently values originality and discourages plagiarism. Therefore, demonstrating an awareness of one's influences and how they have been processed into a unique artistic statement is paramount. This approach aligns with the ethical imperative to present one's own intellectual and creative output honestly. An incorrect approach would be to directly copy or heavily adapt existing visual material without any acknowledgement or transformation. This constitutes academic dishonesty, as it misrepresents the student's own creative capacity. Another incorrect approach would be to claim a borrowed concept as entirely original, thereby deceiving the admissions committee about the student's true creative process and originality. These actions violate the fundamental principles of academic integrity expected by any reputable educational institution, including the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, and would likely lead to disqualification. Professionals in creative fields must develop a robust ethical compass. This involves a continuous process of self-reflection on their creative sources, understanding the boundaries between inspiration and appropriation, and maintaining transparency about their influences. When faced with situations involving potential plagiarism or misrepresentation, a professional should always err on the side of caution, seeking to understand the ethical implications and prioritizing honesty and originality in their work. Question 7. Benchmark analysis indicates that collaborative projects are increasingly common in art and design education. Considering the ethical implications of intellectual property within such projects, what is the most responsible approach for an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design when preparing to present a collaborative artwork for the entrance exam, ensuring fair attribution and respecting the contributions of all involved? Option A. Submit the artwork with a general statement acknowledging it as a collaborative effort, leaving the specific attribution of individual contributions to be resolved later if questions arise. Option B. Prioritize highlighting one's own most significant contributions to the project in the presentation, with a brief mention of other collaborators' involvement. Option C. Focus on presenting the artwork in the most aesthetically compelling way, assuming the instructors will understand the collaborative nature and assign credit as they see fit. Option D. Proactively discuss and agree upon a clear attribution and ownership plan with all collaborators before the presentation, ensuring all contributions are acknowledged appropriately. Correct answer is D. Proactively discuss and agree upon a clear attribution and ownership plan with all collaborators before the presentation, ensuring all contributions are acknowledged appropriately. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design by requiring them to navigate the ethical considerations of intellectual property within a collaborative project context. The core difficulty lies in balancing the recognition of individual contributions with the collective ownership and presentation of a shared creative output, all while adhering to the implicit ethical standards expected of aspiring art and design professionals. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness, transparency, and respect for all involved parties. The correct approach involves proactively seeking clarity and agreement on attribution and ownership from all collaborators before the project's public presentation. This demonstrates a commitment to ethical practice, professional integrity, and respect for intellectual property rights. By engaging in open communication and establishing clear guidelines, the applicant ensures that all contributions are acknowledged appropriately, preventing potential disputes and fostering a positive collaborative environment. This aligns with the ethical expectations of the art and design community, which values honesty, fairness, and the proper recognition of creative work. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on personal achievement without acknowledging collaborators fails to uphold ethical standards of fairness and respect. It risks undermining the collaborative spirit and can lead to accusations of plagiarism or intellectual dishonesty, which are serious offenses in the academic and professional art and design world. Another incorrect approach that assumes the instructor will arbitrate attribution issues without prior discussion among collaborators is professionally irresponsible. It abdicates the applicant's responsibility to engage in proactive ethical communication and problem solving, potentially leading to unresolved conflicts and a lack of clarity regarding ownership and credit. A further incorrect approach that prioritizes the aesthetic presentation over the ethical considerations of attribution overlooks the fundamental importance of integrity in creative work. While visual appeal is crucial in art and design, it cannot come at the expense of ethical conduct and the fair recognition of all contributors. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a proactive, collaborative, and transparent approach. Before commencing any collaborative project, especially one intended for presentation or evaluation, it is crucial to establish clear agreements regarding intellectual property, attribution, and ownership. This involves open dialogue with all collaborators to define roles, responsibilities, and how credit will be shared. If disagreements arise, seeking guidance from a trusted mentor or the institution's academic advisors is a responsible step. Ultimately, prioritizing ethical conduct and respectful collaboration is paramount to building a strong and reputable professional foundation. Question 8. Comparative studies suggest that art and design school admissions committees often face the challenge of evaluating applicant portfolios that exhibit strong technical execution, but raise questions about originality and potential intellectual property concerns. Considering the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design's commitment to fostering innovative and ethically responsible artists, which of the following approaches best navigates this complex scenario? Option A. Immediately reject the applicant's portfolio upon identifying any elements that bear a strong resemblance to established artworks, without further investigation or consideration of the applicant's intent or potential for learning. Option B. Focus solely on the stylistic uniqueness of the applicant's work, overlooking potential issues of uncredited appropriation if the overall aesthetic is deemed appealing and technically sound. Option C. Prioritize the applicant's demonstrable technical proficiency above all else, admitting them based on the strength of their execution, regardless of any perceived similarities to existing copyrighted works. Option D. Acknowledge the applicant's technical skill while initiating a dialogue with the applicant to understand their creative process and the influences behind specific pieces, seeking to clarify the extent of originality and adherence to ethical artistic principles before making a final decision. The correct answer is D. Acknowledge the applicant's technical skill while initiating a dialogue with the applicant to understand their creative process and the influences behind specific pieces, seeking to clarify the extent of originality and adherence to ethical artistic principles before making a final decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the applicant's portfolio, while demonstrating technical skill, contains elements that could be interpreted as derivative of existing copyrighted works. The admissions committee must balance the desire to identify promising artistic talent with the ethical and legal obligation to uphold principles of originality and intellectual property. Failure to do so could lead to reputational damage for the institution and potential legal issues. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between inspiration and infringement. The correct approach involves a nuanced evaluation that prioritizes originality and ethical artistic practice. This means recognizing the applicant's technical proficiency while critically assessing the degree to which their work relies on the uncredited or unauthorized use of others' creations. The ethical justification lies in fostering a culture of integrity within the art and design community, where respect for intellectual property is paramount. Legally, the school must avoid admitting students whose work demonstrably infringes on copyright, as this could imply institutional endorsement of such practices. An approach that solely focuses on technical merit without considering originality risks overlooking potential ethical and legal concerns. This would be a failure to uphold the school's commitment to fostering responsible artistic development. An approach that immediately dismisses the applicant based on a single perceived instance of similarity, without further investigation or dialogue, could be overly harsh and fail to recognize the applicant's potential for growth and understanding of artistic ethics. While caution is necessary, a blanket rejection without due process is not ideal. An approach that attempts to rationalize or downplay the similarities by focusing on minor stylistic differences without addressing the core issue of potential infringement would be a failure to engage with the ethical implications of the applicant's work. This approach prioritizes expediency over integrity. Professionals and admissions committees should employ a decision-making framework that involves 1. Thorough review of all submitted materials. 2. Critical assessment of originality and ethical considerations alongside technical skill. 3. Seeking clarification or further information if ambiguities exist. And 4. Consulting with relevant internal or external experts if complex legal or ethical questions arise. The ultimate decision should be grounded in the institution's stated values and commitment to ethical artistic practice. Question 9. Market research demonstrates that a significant number of talented young artists in rural regions of France are unaware of the specialized programs offered at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design. To increase enrollment from these regions, which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework governing French higher education admissions and ethical recruitment practices? Option A. Establish partnerships with local art galleries in these rural regions to offer guaranteed admission to students whose work is featured in their exhibitions, regardless of formal application or portfolio review. Option B. Create a special rural talent scholarship that significantly lowers the admission threshold for applicants from designated rural areas, prioritizing geographical origin over demonstrated artistic skill. Option C. Develop targeted outreach programs that clearly communicate admission requirements, portfolio submission guidelines, and the unique strengths of the school's programs, while ensuring all selection is based on objective artistic merit and academic potential as defined by the school's published criteria. Option D. Focus recruitment efforts exclusively on urban centers where potential applicants are more concentrated, assuming that rural artists will naturally find their way to the school if they are truly interested. Correct answer is C. Develop targeted outreach programs that clearly communicate admission requirements, portfolio submission guidelines, and the unique strengths of the school's programs, while ensuring all selection is based on objective artistic merit and academic potential as defined by the school's published criteria. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, like any educational institution, operates under specific French national regulations governing admissions, student recruitment, and the ethical conduct of its staff. The challenge lies in balancing effective outreach and recruitment with strict adherence to these regulations, ensuring fairness, transparency, and non-discrimination. Misinterpreting or circumventing these guidelines can lead to legal repercussions, reputational damage, and unfair disadvantages for prospective students. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of the French Ministry of Higher Education's guidelines on admissions procedures and the principles of equal opportunity in education. This approach prioritizes transparent communication of admission criteria, objective evaluation of applications based solely on merit and suitability for the program, and avoidance of any practices that could be construed as preferential treatment or undue influence. Specifically, it aligns with the principle of meritocracy and the prohibition of discriminatory practices in educational admissions, as enshrined in French law. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on meeting enrollment targets without regard for the established admission protocols would fail to uphold the regulatory framework. This could manifest as prioritizing candidates based on factors unrelated to artistic merit or academic potential, thereby violating principles of fairness and equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach that involves creating exclusive recruitment channels or offering preferential access to certain groups without a clear, justifiable, and legally sanctioned basis would also be problematic. Such actions could be seen as discriminatory and contrary to the spirit of open and equitable access to higher education. A third incorrect approach that relies on informal or undocumented selection criteria, or that lacks clear justification for decisions, undermines transparency and accountability, which are fundamental to regulatory compliance in educational admissions. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive review of all applicable national and institutional regulations. This should be followed by an assessment of how proposed recruitment and selection strategies align with these regulations, prioritizing fairness, transparency, and merit. Regular consultation with legal counsel or compliance officers within the institution is advisable to ensure ongoing adherence to evolving legal and ethical standards. Question 10. Regulatory review indicates that the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design is committed to fostering a vibrant and original creative environment. In light of this, a faculty member has raised concerns about a student's submitted project, citing perceived similarities to existing professional artwork. The faculty member suspects potential plagiarism, but lacks definitive proof. School's internal guidelines emphasize both the importance of artistic integrity and the need to support students' unique creative journeys. How should the school administration proceed in addressing this situation to uphold both academic standards and the principles of artistic development? Option A. Publicly announce a review of all student submissions for potential plagiarism to deter future incidents, without specific investigation into the current case. Option B. Immediately issue a warning to the student regarding potential plagiarism and require them to resubmit the project with significant alterations, based on the faculty member's initial suspicion. Option C. Dismiss the faculty member's concerns as a misunderstanding of artistic influence and encourage the student to continue their work without further scrutiny to avoid stifling creativity. Option D. Initiate a formal investigation into the student's creative process, gathering evidence and consulting relevant school policies on academic integrity and originality, while engaging directly with the student to understand their influences and intent. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal investigation into the student's creative process, gathering evidence and consulting relevant school policies on academic integrity and originality, while engaging directly with the student to understand their influences and intent. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the school's commitment to fostering creativity and individual expression with the need to adhere to established academic integrity and ethical guidelines. The pressure to produce original work, coupled with the potential for external influence or misinterpretation of artistic intent, necessitates careful judgment. The core of the challenge lies in distinguishing between legitimate artistic inspiration and academic misconduct, particularly when the lines can be blurred in a creative context. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective investigation into the student's creative process and the origins of their submitted work. This means engaging with the student directly to understand their influences, research methods, and the evolution of their concept. It also requires consulting relevant school policies on academic integrity, originality, and plagiarism, and applying them fairly and consistently. The justification for this approach rests on the principles of due process, fairness, and the upholding of academic standards. By seeking to understand the student's perspective and gathering all relevant information before making a judgment, the school demonstrates a commitment to a fair and transparent process, aligning with the ethical imperative to avoid prejudgment and to provide students with an opportunity to explain their actions. This aligns with the spirit of fostering artistic development while maintaining academic rigor. An incorrect approach would be to immediately assume plagiarism based on superficial similarities or external accusations without a proper investigation. This fails to acknowledge the nuances of artistic influence and inspiration, which are fundamental to creative development. Such an approach risks unfairly penalizing a student and undermining the school's reputation for supporting artistic exploration. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the concerns outright without any inquiry, which would be a failure of due diligence and a disregard for the school's responsibility to maintain academic integrity. This approach neglects the possibility of genuine misconduct and could set a precedent for a lax academic environment. A third incorrect approach would be to apply a rigid, formulaic definition of plagiarism that does not account for the subjective nature of artistic creation and interpretation, potentially penalizing students for legitimate homage or stylistic borrowing that is common and accepted within artistic discourse. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, multi-stage approach. First, acknowledge and document any concerns raised. Second, initiate a confidential and impartial investigation, gathering evidence from all relevant parties, including the student. Third, consult the school's specific policies and guidelines on academic integrity and artistic originality. Fourth, engage in a dialogue with the student to understand their perspective and creative process. Fifth, make a reasoned decision based on the evidence and the established policies, ensuring fairness and transparency. Finally, communicate the decision and any consequences clearly to the student, while also considering any necessary follow-up actions to support their academic development. Question 11. Consider a scenario where an applicant is preparing their portfolio for the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design entrance exam. They have a body of work that includes technically proficient drawings, a series of digitally manipulated images reflecting current graphic design trends, a collection of abstract sculptures exploring form and texture, and a project that documents their research into the historical context of a chosen artistic movement, culminating in a series of experimental pieces inspired by that research. Which approach to presenting their portfolio best demonstrates their suitability for the school's program? Option A. Presenting the portfolio with a strong emphasis on the research project, clearly articulating the historical context, the research process, and how the experimental pieces are a direct outcome of this intellectual engagement. Option B. Compiling a portfolio that includes a wide range of the applicant's work, without a specific thematic or conceptual focus, to demonstrate versatility. Option C. Focusing the portfolio on the digitally manipulated images, aiming to impress with their adherence to contemporary graphic design aesthetics. Option D. Submitting a portfolio that primarily showcases the technically proficient drawings, highlighting the skill and precision of their execution. The correct answer is A. Presenting the portfolio with a strong emphasis on the research project, clearly articulating the historical context, the research process, and how the experimental pieces are a direct outcome of this intellectual engagement. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the foundational principles that underpin creative education within the specific context of the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design. The challenge lies in discerning which approach best aligns with the school's pedagogical philosophy and admission criteria, which are implicitly guided by French educational regulations and the specific mission of an art and design institution. A deep understanding of the school's values and the broader educational landscape is crucial for making a judgment that reflects genuine potential and suitability. The correct approach involves selecting a portfolio that showcases a clear conceptual development and a thoughtful engagement with the creative process, demonstrating an ability to articulate ideas and intentions. This aligns with the likely regulatory framework for higher art education in France, which emphasizes critical thinking, research, and the development of a personal artistic voice, rather than solely technical proficiency or adherence to trends. The Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, as an institution of higher learning, would prioritize candidates who can demonstrate intellectual curiosity and the capacity for sustained creative inquiry, as reflected in their portfolio's narrative and conceptual depth. This approach signals an applicant's readiness for advanced study and their potential to contribute meaningfully to the school's academic and creative community. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical execution, while demonstrating skill, fails to address the conceptual and intellectual rigor expected at the higher education level. This approach might be suitable for more vocational training, but overlooks the emphasis on critical analysis and personal expression that is a hallmark of art and design schools. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes mimicking current popular styles or trends, without demonstrating originality or a personal perspective, suggests a lack of independent thought and an inability to develop a unique artistic identity. This approach risks producing graduates who are derivative rather than innovative. Finally, an approach that presents a collection of disparate works without a unifying theme or clear intention fails to demonstrate a coherent artistic vision or the ability to undertake a sustained project. This lack of focus suggests a potential difficulty in navigating the structured demands of a higher education curriculum. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves first understanding the specific requirements and values of the institution. This includes researching the school's mission statement, faculty profiles, and curriculum. Then, one must evaluate each option against these established criteria, looking for evidence of conceptual understanding, originality, critical engagement, and alignment with the institution's pedagogical goals. The decision should be guided by an assessment of which approach best predicts the applicant's success within that particular educational environment and their potential for growth as an artist or designer. Question 12. The performance metrics show a slight dip in a candidate's technical drawing scores over the last semester, but their conceptual design project received exceptional feedback from external industry professionals. Considering the holistic nature of art and design education at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, which approach best reflects a responsible and effective admissions decision-making process? Option A. Reject the candidate due to the declining technical drawing scores, as these are foundational skills for all design disciplines. Option B. Defer the decision pending a re-evaluation of the technical drawing scores without considering the conceptual project's impact. Option C. Admit the candidate solely based on the technical drawing scores, as these are objective and measurable indicators of skill. Option D. Recommend admission based on the exceptional feedback for the conceptual design project, while noting the technical drawing scores for potential academic support during the program. The correct answer is D. Recommend admission based on the exceptional feedback for the conceptual design project, while noting the technical drawing scores for potential academic support during the program. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, like any educational institution, is bound by principles of fairness, transparency, and the effective allocation of resources. The performance metrics, while indicating potential, are not the sole determinant of a student's suitability for advanced study. A purely data-driven approach risks overlooking crucial qualitative aspects of artistic development and potential, which are central to art and design education. The challenge lies in balancing objective indicators with subjective artistic evaluation and the school's pedagogical mission. The correct approach involves a holistic review that integrates the performance metrics with a qualitative assessment of the applicant's portfolio, personal statement, and potentially an interview. This aligns with the spirit of art and design education, which values creativity, critical thinking, and individual artistic voice alongside technical proficiency. Regulatory frameworks for educational institutions, while not explicitly detailed for this specific exam, generally emphasize fair assessment and the consideration of all relevant evidence of a candidate's potential. Ethically, this approach demonstrates respect for the applicant's efforts and acknowledges that artistic growth is multifaceted. An approach that solely relies on the performance metrics, without considering the qualitative aspects of the applicant's work and potential, fails to adhere to the comprehensive assessment expected in art and design admissions. This could lead to the rejection of a highly promising candidate whose artistic journey is not fully captured by quantitative data. It also risks creating a perception of an overly mechanistic admissions process, potentially undermining the school's reputation for fostering creative talent. An approach that prioritizes anecdotal evidence or personal biases over the documented performance metrics and portfolio review would be ethically unsound and professionally irresponsible. Such an approach would lack objectivity and could lead to unfair admissions decisions, potentially violating principles of equal opportunity and merit-based selection. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured evaluation framework that combines quantitative data with qualitative assessment. This framework should be clearly defined and communicated to admissions committees. It requires critical judgment to weigh different types of evidence, ensuring that the final decision reflects a comprehensive understanding of the applicant's potential and alignment with the school's educational objectives. Question 13. The investigation demonstrates that an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design entrance exam has been heavily influenced by a contemporary artist's distinctive style and subject matter when creating their submitted portfolio piece. The applicant has not directly copied any specific artwork, but has adopted the artist's color palette, compositional techniques, and thematic concerns to a significant degree. Considering the principles of academic integrity and the assessment of individual creative potential, which of the following approaches best reflects responsible conduct for this applicant? Option A. Seek permission from the contemporary artist to use their style and themes, and if permission is denied, abandon the current creative direction entirely. Option B. Acknowledge the influence of the contemporary artist in a brief artist statement, explaining how this influence was interpreted and transformed into a personal artistic expression. Option C. Submit the portfolio piece without any mention of the contemporary artist, assuming that inspiration is a natural part of the creative process and not something that requires disclosure. Option D. Attempt to subtly alter the submitted piece to make it appear less similar to the contemporary artist's work, without explicitly acknowledging the original influence. The correct answer is B. Acknowledge the influence of the contemporary artist in a brief artist statement, explaining how this influence was interpreted and transformed into a personal artistic expression. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design by requiring them to navigate the ethical considerations of artistic integrity and academic honesty within the context of an entrance examination. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the desire to present one's best work with the imperative to adhere to the examination's rules and the ethical principles of originality. Careful judgment is required to discern between legitimate inspiration and academic misconduct. The correct approach involves acknowledging the influence of external artistic works while ensuring that the submitted piece is a genuine expression of the applicant's own creative process and interpretation. This aligns with the fundamental principles of academic integrity, which are implicitly expected in any educational institution, including art and design schools. The examination is designed to assess an individual's unique vision, technical skills, and conceptual thinking. Submitting work that is substantially derivative without proper attribution or acknowledgement would misrepresent the applicant's capabilities and undermine the purpose of the entrance exam. While the prompt does not specify explicit regulations for this particular exam, the universal ethical standard in academic and creative fields is originality and honesty in submission. An incorrect approach would be to submit a piece that is a direct imitation or a close replication of another artist's work without any significant personal contribution or transformation. This constitutes plagiarism or academic dishonesty, as it misrepresents the applicant's own creative output. Another incorrect approach would be to claim sole authorship of a piece that heavily relies on another artist's concept or style without any acknowledgement, thereby misleading the admissions committee about the applicant's independent creative capacity. A further incorrect approach would be to seek external assistance to create the artwork, in a way that bypasses the applicant's own skill development and creative input, as this also misrepresents their abilities. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a self-assessment of the submitted work against the core values of originality, honesty, and personal effort. Applicants should ask themselves, does this work truly reflect my own ideas and execution? And have I been inspired by others? And if so, have I transformed that inspiration into something uniquely mine, or have I merely copied? When in doubt, it is always best to err on the side of transparency and originality, perhaps by seeking clarification from the examination organizers, or by choosing a different creative direction that more clearly demonstrates personal authorship. Question 14. The analysis reveals that an applicant for the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design entrance exam has utilized advanced AI image generation tools to create several key pieces for their digital art portfolio. The applicant is considering submitting these works, but is unsure about the appropriate level of disclosure regarding the AI's involvement. Which of the following approaches best adheres to the principles of academic integrity and the likely expectations of an art and design institution regarding originality and personal creative contribution? Option A. Submit only a small selection of the AI-generated works, with a brief note indicating that AI was involved in their creation, without further elaboration on the applicant's specific role. Option B. Submit the AI-generated works without any mention of the AI tools used, presenting them as entirely the applicant's own creation. Option C. Submit the AI-generated works, clearly stating that AI tools were used for generation, and providing a detailed explanation of the applicant's conceptualization, prompt engineering, selection process, and any subsequent manual editing or integration into the final artwork. Option D. Focus the portfolio on traditional art forms and omit the AI-generated pieces entirely to avoid any potential complications or misinterpretations regarding the use of technology. The correct answer is B. Submit the AI-generated works without any mention of the AI tools used, presenting them as entirely the applicant's own creation. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design by requiring them to navigate the ethical implications of using AI-generated imagery in their portfolio. The core difficulty lies in balancing the innovative use of technology with the principles of academic integrity and originality expected by the institution. Applicants must demonstrate their own creative vision and technical skills, not merely their ability to prompt an AI. The correct approach involves transparently acknowledging the use of AI tools while clearly articulating the applicant's conceptual contribution, creative direction, and any post-processing or integration efforts. This demonstrates an understanding of AI as a tool that augments, rather than replaces, human creativity. It aligns with the spirit of academic honesty by ensuring that the applicant's unique artistic input is evident, and that the work submitted is a genuine reflection of their capabilities and artistic intent, as implicitly required by the entrance exam's focus on assessing individual talent and potential. An incorrect approach of submitting AI-generated work without any disclosure fails to meet the implicit requirement of originality and personal artistic expression. This constitutes a misrepresentation of the applicant's own creative output and could be seen as an attempt to gain an unfair advantage by relying solely on algorithmic generation. Another incorrect approach of claiming AI-generated work as entirely their own, without acknowledging the AI's role, is a direct breach of academic integrity and honesty. It misleads the admissions committee about the applicant's skill set and creative process. A further incorrect approach of overemphasizing the AI's role to the point where the applicant's own creative input is obscured undermines the purpose of the entrance exam, which is to evaluate the applicant's individual artistic vision and execution. Professionals in creative fields, when faced with new technologies, should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes transparency, ethical disclosure, and a clear articulation of their personal contribution. This involves understanding the specific guidelines and expectations of the institution or context, critically evaluating the ethical implications of their actions, and communicating their process and results honestly. Question 15. Operational review demonstrates that the admissions committee for the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design is evaluating a portfolio from an applicant whose work exhibits strong conceptual ideas and a unique artistic voice, but whose technical execution is still developing. considering the established admissions framework for French art and design schools, which approach best aligns with the principles of fair and effective candidate assessment. Option A. Prioritize the candidate's conceptual originality and artistic potential, recognizing that technical skills can be further developed within the school's curriculum, provided the portfolio demonstrates a clear alignment with the school's artistic direction. Option B. Favor portfolios that showcase extensive experience with established artistic mediums and techniques, even if the conceptual exploration is less pronounced, as this indicates a higher likelihood of immediate contribution to the school's reputation. Option C. Reject the portfolio due to underdeveloped technical skills, as a high level of technical proficiency is a prerequisite for all successful applicants, regardless of conceptual strength. Option D. Evaluate the portfolio based on the applicant's social network and any prior connections to faculty members, as these factors can indicate future success and influence within the art world. The correct answer is A. Prioritize the candidate's conceptual originality and artistic potential, recognizing that technical skills can be further developed within the school's curriculum, provided the portfolio demonstrates a clear alignment with the school's artistic direction. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, like any educational institution, operates under specific national and institutional guidelines regarding admissions and the evaluation of artistic portfolios. The challenge lies in balancing the subjective nature of artistic assessment with the need for fair, transparent, and consistent evaluation processes that adhere to these established frameworks. A candidate's portfolio is a critical component of their application, and its assessment requires careful judgment to ensure that all applicants are evaluated equitably and that the school's academic and artistic standards are upheld. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the candidate's portfolio, considering not only technical skill, but also conceptual originality, artistic intent, and the potential for development, all within the context of the school's stated admissions criteria and pedagogical philosophy. This approach is justified by the regulatory framework of French higher education institutions, which emphasizes merit-based admissions and the importance of evaluating candidates against clearly defined program objectives. Adhering to these principles ensures fairness, prevents bias, and maintains the academic integrity of the admissions process. An incorrect approach that prioritizes only technical proficiency without considering conceptual depth or artistic vision fails to align with the holistic evaluation expected in art and design education. This could lead to the rejection of highly promising candidates who demonstrate strong conceptual thinking, but may have less refined technical execution, thereby potentially overlooking future innovators. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the perceived prestige of previous institutions or the applicant's social connections, rather than the merit of their work, directly violates principles of equal opportunity and fair assessment, which are foundational to educational admissions regulations. Such a bias undermines the school's commitment to diversity and meritocracy. A third incorrect approach, which involves applying arbitrary or inconsistent criteria across different portfolios, introduces subjectivity and unfairness, potentially leading to discriminatory outcomes and a breach of institutional policy and national educational standards. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the institution's admissions policy and the specific requirements of the program. This involves establishing clear, objective, where possible, and subjective evaluation criteria that are applied consistently to all applicants. A structured review process, potentially involving multiple evaluators to mitigate individual bias, is crucial. The focus should always be on the applicant's demonstrated abilities and potential as evidenced in their submitted materials, in alignment with the school's educational mission and regulatory obligations. Question 16. To address the challenge of evaluating an applicant for the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, whose parent is a significant donor to the institution, and you have a personal acquaintance with the applicant's family, what is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action for a member of the admissions committee? Option A. Withdraw from the admissions committee entirely for the duration of the application cycle to avoid any appearance of impropriety, without providing specific reasons. Option B. Discreetly influence the evaluation process to favor the applicant by focusing on their strengths and minimizing any perceived weaknesses, without explicitly stating the personal connection. Option C. Advocate for the applicant's admission, highlighting their potential and the positive relationship the school has with their family, assuming their qualifications are generally satisfactory. Option D. Objectively assess the applicant's portfolio and application materials against the school's established admission criteria. Declare the personal acquaintance and the donor relationship to the committee, and recuse yourself from any final decision-making discussions regarding this applicant. The correct answer is D. Objectively assess the applicant's portfolio and application materials against the school's established admission criteria. Declare the personal acquaintance and the donor relationship to the committee, and recuse yourself from any final decision-making discussions regarding this applicant. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical responsibility to maintain academic integrity and ensure a fair assessment process for all applicants to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to support a talented individual with the imperative to uphold the school's admission standards and prevent any perception of bias or unfair advantage. Careful judgment is required to navigate the potential conflict between personal acquaintance and professional duty. The correct approach involves a transparent and objective evaluation process that strictly adheres to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design's stated admission criteria and guidelines. This means assessing the applicant's portfolio, academic record, and any other required components solely on their merit, without allowing personal knowledge of the applicant's family to influence the decision. This approach is ethically sound and professionally justifiable because it upholds the principles of fairness, equity, and meritocracy, which are fundamental to any reputable educational institution's admission process. It ensures that all candidates are judged against the same objective standards, thereby protecting the integrity of the admissions process and the school's reputation. An incorrect approach would be to advocate for the applicant's admission based on the family connection. Even if the applicant's qualifications are strong, this would be a failure to adhere to the school's admission regulations, which mandate objective assessment. It also represents an ethical lapse by introducing personal bias into a professional decision, potentially undermining the trust placed in the admissions committee. Another incorrect approach would be to recuse oneself from the entire admissions committee without providing any justification or explanation. While this might seem like an attempt to avoid conflict, it fails to address the underlying issue and could be seen as an abdication of professional responsibility. A more constructive approach would be to declare the conflict of interest and offer to provide an objective assessment of the applicant's work, while recusing oneself from any final decision-making discussions where personal bias might be perceived. A third incorrect approach would be to subtly steer the evaluation towards a favorable outcome for the applicant by emphasizing minor strengths while downplaying weaknesses, all without explicit justification based on the school's criteria. This constitutes a form of manipulation that compromises the integrity of the assessment and is ethically indefensible. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the institution's ethical code and admission policies. When a potential conflict of interest arises, the professional should first identify the nature of the conflict. Then, they should consult the relevant guidelines and policies to determine the appropriate course of action. Transparency and objectivity are paramount. If a conflict cannot be fully mitigated, recusal from specific decision-making processes, coupled with a clear explanation of the conflict, is often the most responsible path. The ultimate goal is to ensure that decisions are made fairly, ethically, and in the best interest of the institution and all its stakeholders. Question 17. The review process indicates that a member of the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design Admissions Committee has discovered that one of the applicants is a close relative. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for this committee member to take regarding their involvement in the evaluation of this specific applicant? Option A. Immediately disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee chair and await further instruction on how to proceed. Option B. Discreetly withdraw from the committee meeting during the discussion of this particular applicant without informing anyone of the reason. Option C. Discuss the applicant's general qualifications with other committee members to gauge their impressions before deciding on their own involvement. Option D. Continue to evaluate the applicant's portfolio and application materials objectively, believing their professional integrity will prevent bias. The correct answer is A. Immediately disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee chair and await further instruction on how to proceed. Explanation. The review process indicates a potential conflict of interest scenario during the admissions committee's evaluation of applications for the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design. This situation is professionally challenging because it requires the committee member to navigate ethical obligations to the institution, fairness to all applicants, and personal integrity. The integrity of the admissions process is paramount, and any perception of bias or unfair advantage can severely damage the school's reputation and the trust placed in its selection procedures. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of transparency, impartiality, and meritocracy. The correct approach involves immediate and full disclosure of the familial relationship to the admissions committee chair or the designated ethics officer. This approach represents best professional practice because it adheres to the fundamental ethical principle of avoiding conflicts of interest. By disclosing the relationship, the committee member allows for an informed decision to be made regarding their participation in the evaluation of the applicant. This upholds transparency, ensures fairness to all other applicants who are not related to committee members, and protects the integrity of the admissions process. It aligns with the implicit regulatory framework of any educational institution that mandates fair and unbiased evaluation. An incorrect approach of remaining silent and participating in the evaluation process would be a significant ethical failure. This failure stems from a lack of transparency and a direct violation of the principle of avoiding conflicts of interest. It creates an unfair advantage for the applicant and undermines the credibility of the admissions committee and the school. Another incorrect approach of recusing oneself from the entire committee meeting without explanation is also professionally problematic. While it avoids direct participation in the evaluation, it fails to proactively address the conflict of interest. It can lead to speculation and questions about the committee members' motives, potentially causing disruption without a clear resolution. It misses the opportunity to ensure the process is managed appropriately through disclosure and a decision by the committee. A third incorrect approach of discussing the applicant's strengths and weaknesses with other committee members in a general, non-evaluative manner, while attempting to remain impartial, still carries a significant risk. Even without explicit advocacy, the personal connection can subtly influence perceptions and discussions, making true impartiality difficult to achieve and maintain. This approach fails to eliminate the appearance of impropriety and does not provide the necessary safeguard of formal disclosure and decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear framework. 1. Identify potential conflicts of interest. 2. Consult institutional policies and ethical guidelines. 3. Disclose the conflict promptly and fully to the appropriate authority. 4. Follow the guidance provided by the institution regarding recusal or other mitigation strategies. 5. Maintain confidentiality and impartiality throughout the process. Question 18. What factors determine the most appropriate assessment of an applicant's potential for success at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, considering the institution's commitment to fostering diverse artistic talent and its unique educational mission? Option A. A primary focus on the applicant's general academic performance and standardized test scores from their previous educational institutions. Option B. A strict adherence to the technical mastery displayed in the applicant's portfolio, prioritizing established artistic techniques. Option C. A comprehensive evaluation of the applicant's artistic portfolio, statement of intent, and demonstrated potential for creative growth and alignment with the school's artistic ethos. Option D. An assessment based on how closely the applicant's artistic style and previous work resemble those of current students or faculty. The correct answer is C. A comprehensive evaluation of the applicant's artistic portfolio, statement of intent, and demonstrated potential for creative growth and alignment with the school's artistic ethos. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the admissions committee at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design must balance the institution's commitment to fostering diverse artistic talent with the need to maintain academic rigor and ensure that admitted students possess the foundational skills and potential to succeed in a demanding art and design program. The pressure to admit a certain number of students, coupled with the subjective nature of artistic evaluation, creates a complex decision-making environment. Careful judgment is required to avoid bias and ensure fairness. The correct approach involves a holistic review of each applicant's portfolio, statement of intent, and any supplementary materials, considering their potential for growth and their alignment with the school's artistic ethos. This approach is justified by the guiding principles of the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, which likely emphasize the development of individual artistic voices and the cultivation of critical thinking within a creative context. The focus is on identifying promising artists who can contribute to and benefit from the school's unique educational environment, rather than solely on pre-existing technical perfection or adherence to a narrow definition of artistic merit. This aligns with the educational mission of nurturing creative professionals. An incorrect approach that relies solely on the technical proficiency demonstrated in a portfolio fails to recognize that artistic development is a journey. Many highly talented individuals may not yet possess advanced technical skills, but exhibit exceptional conceptual thinking, originality, and a strong drive to learn. This approach risks excluding promising candidates who could flourish with the school's training. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes applicants who closely mirror the current student body or faculty's artistic styles would stifle innovation and diversity. Art and design thrive on varied perspectives and approaches. Admitting only those who conform to existing norms would lead to a stagnant creative environment and fail to prepare students for a dynamic and evolving professional world. A further incorrect approach that focuses exclusively on an applicant's academic background outside of art and design, such as general academic scores, overlooks the primary purpose of an art and design school. While a general educational foundation can be beneficial, the core assessment must be on artistic aptitude, creative potential, and passion for the chosen field. This approach would misjudge the essential qualities for success in an art and design program. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve establishing clear, albeit flexible, admission criteria that reflect the school's mission. This includes defining what constitutes a strong portfolio, e.g., originality, conceptual depth, experimentation, personal voice, and a compelling statement of intent. A diverse admissions committee with varied artistic backgrounds can help mitigate individual biases. Regular review and calibration of these criteria are essential to ensure they remain relevant and fair. The process should prioritize identifying potential and a commitment to artistic growth, recognizing that talent manifests in many forms. Question 19. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a significant number of applicants to the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design may struggle to differentiate between legitimate artistic inspiration and intellectual property infringement in their portfolio submissions. You are reviewing an applicant's portfolio, which features a series of striking illustrations heavily influenced by a well-known contemporary graphic novelist's distinctive style, including similar character archetypes and compositional techniques, but with different subject matter. The applicant has not explicitly mentioned the graphic novelist as an influence. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee to take regarding this submission? Option A. Request a written statement from the applicant explaining their creative process and the influences behind their illustrations, allowing them to clarify their relationship with the graphic novelist's work. Option B. Reject the submission outright due to the clear and unacknowledged stylistic appropriation, as it demonstrates a lack of understanding of originality and academic integrity. Option C. Accept the submission as is, assuming the applicant's stylistic choices are coincidental and a testament to their innate talent, and that the school will address originality concerns during their studies. Option D. Advise the applicant to revise their portfolio to remove all elements that resemble the graphic novelist's style before the final review, thereby ensuring a clean submission. The correct answer is B. Reject the submission outright due to the clear and unacknowledged stylistic appropriation, as it demonstrates a lack of understanding of originality and academic integrity. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for an aspiring art and design student at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design by requiring them to navigate potential ethical considerations related to intellectual property and originality within a creative context. The core difficulty lies in balancing the inspiration drawn from existing works with the imperative to produce original creations, a fundamental principle in art and design education and practice. This requires a nuanced understanding of attribution, adaptation, and outright plagiarism, all of which have implications for academic integrity and future professional conduct. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent engagement with the source material. This means clearly acknowledging any influences or direct references used in the submitted work. For a university entrance exam, this translates to demonstrating an understanding of how to build upon existing artistic traditions or styles without misrepresenting the work as entirely novel. The regulatory framework for academic institutions, including art schools, emphasizes honesty and originality. Therefore, clearly citing inspirations, explaining the process of adaptation, and ensuring the final output is a distinct personal interpretation, aligns with the ethical guidelines of academic integrity and the school's commitment to fostering genuine creative development. This approach demonstrates critical thinking and respect for intellectual property, crucial attributes for a student at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design. An incorrect approach would be to present work that heavily borrows from or directly copies existing pieces without any acknowledgement. This constitutes plagiarism, a serious academic offense. Ethically, it is dishonest and disrespectful to the original creators. From a regulatory standpoint within an educational institution, it undermines the assessment process and the school's standards. Another incorrect approach would be to claim complete originality for a piece that is clearly derivative, even if not a direct copy. This misrepresents the student's creative process and their understanding of artistic lineage. It fails to demonstrate the ability to critically engage with and build upon existing art, a key skill for art and design students. A third incorrect approach might involve seeking to obscure the influences, perhaps by making minor alterations to a copied work. This is still a form of deception, and fails to meet the ethical standard of transparency and originality expected in academic submissions. The professional decision-making process in such situations involves a commitment to honesty, transparency, and a thorough understanding of academic integrity principles. Aspiring students should always err on the side of caution by over-attributing rather than under-attributing. They should reflect on the source of their ideas and how they have transformed them. If unsure about the boundaries of acceptable influence or adaptation, seeking guidance from mentors or instructors is a crucial step. This proactive approach ensures that submissions are not only creative, but also ethically sound and compliant with academic expectations. Question 20. The assessment process reveals an applicant's portfolio exhibits exceptional technical skill and a striking resemblance to the distinct style of a prominent contemporary artist, with minimal apparent personal interpretation or conceptual divergence. How should the admissions committee approach the evaluation of this applicant's originality and potential? Option A. Prioritize the applicant's technical proficiency and aesthetic appeal, considering the stylistic resemblance as a positive indicator of artistic understanding and mastery. Option B. Immediately flag the portfolio for potential plagiarism due to the strong stylistic similarities, initiating a formal investigation into unacknowledged appropriation. Option C. Focus on the applicant's ability to accurately mimic established artistic styles, viewing this as a valuable skill for future artistic practice and commercial application. Option D. Assess the extent to which the applicant has synthesized influences into a unique artistic voice, demonstrating conceptual development and personal interpretation beyond mere stylistic replication. Correct answer is D. Assess the extent to which the applicant has synthesized influences into a unique artistic voice, demonstrating conceptual development and personal interpretation beyond mere stylistic replication. Explanation. The assessment process at the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design involves evaluating a diverse range of creative portfolios. A professionally challenging aspect arises when an applicant's submitted work, while technically proficient and aesthetically striking, appears to heavily borrow from or directly replicate existing, well-known artistic styles without clear attribution or a discernible personal evolution. This situation demands careful judgment to distinguish between genuine inspiration and potential plagiarism or lack of originality, which are critical considerations for academic integrity and the development of unique artistic voices. The correct approach involves a nuanced evaluation that prioritizes the applicant's demonstrated ability to synthesize influences into a personal artistic vision. This means looking for evidence of original interpretation, conceptual development, and a unique stylistic signature, even when drawing upon established art historical movements or contemporary trends. The regulatory and ethical framework for art and design education, as implicitly understood within the context of an entrance exam for a reputable institution like the Amiens Higher School of Art and Design, emphasizes originality, intellectual honesty, and the development of individual creative expression. Therefore, assessing the applicant's capacity for original thought and personal artistic contribution, rather than solely technical skill or stylistic mimicry, aligns with these core principles. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify an applicant based solely on the perceived similarity of their work to existing styles, without further investigation into the applicant's intent or the degree of transformation. This fails to acknowledge that artistic development often involves learning from and referencing established masters. Another incorrect approach is to overlook the potential for unacknowledged appropriation, which undermines academic integrity and the value placed on original creation. This could lead to admitting students who may not possess the foundational ethical understanding required for artistic practice. A third incorrect approach is to focus exclusively on technical execution, ignoring the conceptual underpinnings and originality of the work. While technical skill is important, it should not overshadow the critical assessment of an applicant's unique creative contribution. Professionals making these decisions should employ a framework that involves 1. Initial assessment of technical merit and aesthetic appeal. 2. Critical analysis of the work's originality and conceptual depth, considering potential influences. 3. Seeking evidence of personal interpretation and synthesis of these influences. And 4. Making a judgment based on the overall demonstration of creative potential and intellectual honesty, in line with the institution's commitment to fostering original artistic talent.